Excited once again to be here with you guys this morning. And for me, the minute I saw this topic, I knew that it would be important for us to segment it into two distinct areas, which is obviously the hiring part as well as the business goals part. What are the core resources that a business goes through? All right. What are some of the core resources that are necessary to create this beautiful thing that we all set out to do in business, which is profit? We want to be profitable. We want to be successful. We want to create a platform that we can then use to do other things. But there are a lot of inputs that are required. As we look at those inputs from the different products and services, the unique selling proposition of our business, the capital, the financial injection that we need, which obviously partners like KCB are so crucial at providing, the money, the cash that you need to drive the business. Time, we all have the same 24 hours. What you choose to do with your time, whether you're in real estate, whether you're running a restaurant, whether you're in farming, whether you're in supplies or transport, at the end of the day, we have the same 24 hours, but the decisions and the choices that we make in our 24 hours determine how best we extract value from our day. Then we have our processes, the systems that guide and inform us. Do we have proper processes? In fact, on some of the customer experience trainings that I conduct, we say that a customer experience is really product, process, and people. And the last bit, which I'm personally invested in, which is your reputation and your brand. As an image consultant, we know that the minute you have a brand that is well established, that is strong enough in the market, where people can defend you, where people can promote you, they can endorse you, you've really won half of the battle as far as customer and market share is concerned. But what we're here to talk about today is people, right? People, the people that are in your business. There are different people who are part of our business, from suppliers to subcontractors or contractors. People who we don't keep as a matter of permanent engagement. But today we're talking about those who we're keeping as a matter of permanent engagement, and we refer to those as employees, right? These are people who are part of our business. They have to buy into the ethos, and we know, especially as founders and entrepreneurs and business people, we are the beginning and I won't say the end, but everything lives and dies with us as founders, right? We are the people who, we have the idea, we have the vision, we have the concepts, we have the networks. And so we go into this thing called business with a mindset that, we know what we know, we have our creativity locked in. And what we're trying to do is surround ourselves with like-minded people. What objective macro and objectives micro are you pushing towards? And what strategy do you have in place to achieve that objective or those objectives? And then finally, we have tactics. What are the tactical things that you're doing on a day-to-day, week-by-week, month-by-month basis that are moving you strategically in that direction? Okay, so OST is a formula that many winners in life have managed to use, and he dissects it quite well. And for me, it's something that I've put into practice, and it's worked really well for many things. This does not mean that the road will be easier or that it will be less painful or less character developing, but it certainly puts into perspective an idea. It solidifies you as a business person so that you're not swayed when things happen. Oh, COVID, oh this, oh that. No, you are aligned perfectly with your agenda, and it's not determined by other people. It is you yourself with your objectives, knowing that I have to achieve this by a certain day, by a certain time, and so on. But what about these objectives, right? These objectives have to be SMART. We know the acronym. They have to be specific, they have to be measurable, they have to be achievable, realistic, and time-bound. And strategic goals represent critical or important achievement in your organization's strategic plan, all right? These objectives are there to be achieved in certain phases, 3 years, 5 years, 1 year, okay? And the minute you have that, start there. And at a very assumptive level, skills, okay? We're training, we're educating people on skills without the because once these people come out of university or wherever it is, they or a TVET or some kind of apprenticeship, right? Okay, I won't put apprenticeship here. I'm just purely talking about education. Responsibilities, outcomes, and work environment and duties are things that people learn on the job. And so even as you interview, before even you interview, it is very important that you appreciate for yourself as an entrepreneur, what do I want this person to be doing? And what do I want them to be achieving? What is the ROI? What is the return on investment? The reason why it's called a human resources department is because it is a resource, okay? It is a resource. It needs to give you a return. It needs to give you something. We said knowing your why is important. You need to know the employers or the potential employees' why as well. There are people who are professional interviewees. They know. They've been to job after job after job after job, and so they know exactly what to say. They know how to answer certain questions and whatever. But some questions can help elicit genuine responses, okay? And find out what motivates people. I know some, it's so typical to ask the normal questions like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are some of your strengths? How do you handle difficult situations? That's nice, okay? But what about, some detailed questions such as, if I ask you to go and speak to a superior person and you get blocked at the reception, by a gatekeeper, how would you handle that? Real things that happen on the job that you cannot anticipate just by asking basic interview questions. Talk about some of the issues that you yourself as an employer went through when you were starting the business. Being stopped at the reception by a gatekeeper, for example. These are things that, some people might, if let's say, for example, you're in sales and marketing, how do you achieve that? Or, let's say, for example, if you have a child, if the potential employee has a child, let's say your child, you get a call from school and that your child is sick or something has happened, how would you handle that with your colleagues and the people higher up? We must ask certain questions that are grounded in reality. We ask these basic questions like, so where do you see, some things that are nebulous and just there you're just there to tick a generic box. But your business better than anybody. If you're a photographer, for example, ask certain questions like, if we get to a wedding and we're there to take pictures, right? And we know that these pictures are not going to turn out well, and these people are dressed poorly and it will make bad pictures. How do we communicate that message to the client without losing that job? You get me? So there's certain things that you need to be able to be very honest and ask. And I frame them as unusual questions, but smart candidates, who come there for the regular questions that most people ask in interviews, will try and be creative to turn, things that they've never encountered before into a positive outcome. Because you need to be able to see at the end of the day that you're not dealing with a robot or a phone or a computer or a machine that you can input certain instructions and it comes out. You're dealing with a person who has a real life. They have spheres of influence. They have family. They might have a spouse. They might have children. They have religious beliefs. They have political views. They watch Netflix. They use different modes of public transport. Their way of being raised and their education level and where they grew up and their backgrounds are very different and diverse compared to you, right? These are human beings with emotions, with feelings, with hopes, with dreams, with ideas about how they should do things. And if you can't tap into that by asking them questions that are directly related to you and what you want to accomplish and to them and their way of creativity, then you will lose out on truly getting the right fit. Because the way, for me, truth in interviews really comes from some of these real ground unusual questions rather than the normal generic ones, okay? So try and make sure that even as you're screening your candidates, include as many realistic things that they are likely to deal with on the ground, rather than just some generic questions. All right, and there's so much to unpack there in that particular point, but I just wanted to introduce it so that we can talk about it perhaps in Q&A if there are going to be any other questions. All right. Now, linked to that, you need to be able to test the resolve of this candidate. All right, because like I said, there are those who are just there for a good time. Okay, and as we know, anybody who's there to deal with who is there and they cannot handle pressure and they cannot deal with the difficulties. You, as a founder and an entrepreneur, you know for yourself how hard it was to start your business, the issues that you dealt with. You want people in the trenches with you who can handle that stuff. Okay, and I mean, being an innovator means that you're doing things differently. Yeah, you need grit. You need to be able to look at these things. Let's go back. Yeah, the fundamentals and the universal elements of any business are your product, the money or service, the money that you will put in, the time that you have, the people you will hire, the processes, and the reputation that you will put in place. You see, a company like Uber, for example, did not invent driving. They did not invent internet. They did not invent cell phones. They did not invent people who needed to be driven. But they looked at all of those things and combined it into a single product. Okay? You see, innovation means being able to create something new with existing ingredients. Eggs can make omelets, can make scrambled eggs, can make boiled eggs, can make fried eggs as eggs by themselves. And those can be products by themselves. But if you combine eggs with flour, sugar, baking powder, milk, water, some other things, flavoring, you can make cookies, you can make cakes, you can make whatever, because now you've combined it with other ingredients. So market innovation is the ability, in my mind, to be able to create things where you combine different ingredients through your processes and your ideas and your concepts to bring something new. Okay, take this, and what do we have now? Bring this, what do we have? Right? Sometimes we think of innovation as doing the same thing differently. No, it might be doing the same thing differently. So use the example of eggs. Eggs can be different in terms of them being scrambled, being an omelette, being a fried egg, being a boiled egg. But that's doing things differently. Adding new things to that raw egg is now where you can create something else. Okay, leaders are very observant. They look at things without being attached. They, the way you would examine. Take the example of a doctor. A doctor is not particularly concerned about how you're feeling when you present with a sickness. Then they're looking at that disease or that wound or that whatever in terms of the anatomy and how everything is connected. How can they bring restoration and balance to something that has happened? For you, it's an emotional thing, it's an economic thing, it's a what thing, but for the doctor, they're looking at it purely in terms of how do we correct what has been disrupted. So when you observe everything as phenomena, you're studying it from a scientific perspective rather than an emotional or an invested perspective.